So 2025 was a terrific year for new fantasy and sci-fi books. We had some killer releases this year, and I have looked ahead, and 2026 doesn't look like it's going to be letting up any. So I hope that you've been working through your backlog, because the amount of new books coming out next year that look great is concerning. I've cut it down to 25, and it still doesn't cover all the books that I think look great, but I need to cut this video at some point. I'll try and go through these relatively in order for the year. So we're starting off with 12 Months by Jim Butcher, the 18th book in the Dresden Files. Oh yeah, I didn't realize there were so many of those. There was a little bit of a break between Dresden books, so I know loads of fans are really excited for this new book. What is there to say about Dresden Files? It is a huge urban fantasy series that is majorly popular and gets a great name. So we have the 18th book coming out next January. Also coming out in January, we have Tomb of Tomes by myself. This is a novella in my Shadowbinders series, releasing right at the end of January 30th, following a scholar as she delves into this long-lost library filled with a lot more than books. It's kind of got a bit of a horror aspect. There's some scholarly politics elements in it, and it takes place between my first two books, Harbinger of Justice and The Black Mantle. However, you don't really need to have read Harbinger of Justice for this to make sense. All of my novellas are kind of supplementary side stories that still just add a lot of background information, especially moving into this third book that we'll be releasing also in 2026. I don't want to make it the me show, but I'm just saying I'm excited for it, and it's releasing next year. And also the third and final book in the Shadowbinders trilogy, my series, is coming out late 2026. Doesn't have a cover yet, but yeah, I'm very excited to finally get that out, and that'll be the trilogy done. Insane. Next up, we have A Day of Breath. This really caught my eye with the cover. The cover is absolutely stunning, and this is releasing in February. This book all revolves around this rift into this other demon world, and all these demons pour through and try and kill everybody. So they have this warrior who kind of protects them from the other side of this rift. That is until the hero's power starts fading. So I always loved the kind of other world, love demons. Looks like there's probably going to be dragons. Kind of looks like there's a dragon up the top, and again, the cover really caught my eye. Next on up, we have Hammerfall by Rob J. Hayes. This is a standalone novel in his God Eater world, so you don't need to have read his God Eater books. I am a huge fan of Rob's work. I love his War Eternal series. I really want to get into his God Eater series in 2026, so the fact that there's now this supplementary standalone novel as well, I'm very excited to check it out. I love this idea of these angels being eaten and kind of that giving them magical abilities. I think that's really cool. And it is impressive how much work and lore and information has been put into this world, because the original books does have 3 separate books and 3 separate series in different time periods across this world that all kind of intertwine. It's such an interesting way to set up a series, and I'm fascinated by it. Cannot wait to check out the main series, but also this new standalone novel as well. So not only are we getting these 3 trilogies from him, he just casually writes another book, also within the world. Rob, what the hell, man? I'm trying to stay on top of the releases here. However, I wouldn't have it any other way. So, very excited for this. Also coming out in February, we have the man, the myth, the legend, that is Matt Dinniman, with a brand new book called Operation Bounce House. Now, this is the author of Dungeon Crawler Carl. However, Operation Bounce House is completely separate. It is not based in the Dungeon Crawler Carl world, and it is a standalone novel. And we follow a main character who just kind of wants to farm and live, but the Galactic Empire type part of this world wants to shut down all these farms and all this region. However, the people on Earth don't really want that, so they have to rebel and fight back. I'm sure it's very funny, I'm sure it's very witty, I'm sure it's very entertaining. I love Matt's work. I will definitely be reading this and putting up a video before the release in February, and is most certainly one of my most anticipated reads of next year. And the fact that it's right at the start of the year is very exciting. And I was very kindly sent an ARC, which was awesome, so I cannot wait to get around to it. And I have high hopes. Coming out in March, we have Aicha. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is a historical fantasy, perfect for fans of The Priory of the Orange Tree and She Who Became the Sun. Aicha, the daughter of a Moroccan freedom fighter, was born for battle. She has witnessed the death of her people, their starvation and torture at the hands of the occupiers, and it has awakened an anger within her. An anger that burns hot, bright, and speaks to Aicha's soul. Who doesn't love an angry protagonist that just wants to tear down an empire? It's always a good time, and again, beautiful cover. Also coming out in March, we have Steel Gods, the sequel to Grave Empire. This is a new trilogy from Richard Swan, who also wrote The Empire of the Wolf, starting with Justice of Kings. I really enjoyed Justice of Kings. I can't wait to continue on and finish those books, but this is a sequel trilogy, and I've heard it really leans into the horror aspects in particular. It is definitely an element in the Empire of the Wolf, but I believe Grave Empire, and I assume Steel Gods, is a lot more horror-esque fantasy, which just sounds really cool. Grave Empire got amazing reviews when it came out. I can't remember if it was this year or last year, but the reviews have been amazing for it, so I'm very excited to get onto those books, and especially with the sequel, Steel Gods, coming out in March. However, I'm also really interested to check out Richard Swan's Infinite State, maybe even more so, which is due to release in August. This is a space opera epic, and it sounds really cool, and the early reviews for Infinite State have all been really positive. So I'm very interested to check out Richard Swan's sci-fi stuff as well, starting with Infinite State, which releases in August. And it follows a character called Catherine, who recently just inherited a bunch of money, which kind of thrusts her into a very complicated situation in this universe that is very rigid and well surveilled, but she wants to use that money to really help the people. And of course, the Empire will not want that. Coming out in April, we have the Book of Fallen Leaves. This was a missed opportunity to release this book in fall, autumn time. Fallen Leaves, and we're releasing it in spring? Come on, guys. However, the reviews have been really positive for this one as well. It is obviously Asian influenced, following the fates of gods and samurai and Japanese myth. Just sounds really cool, and it seems like Orbit's really pushing this one. I've seen it a lot out and about, just being shared and talked about already, which has me really excited to check it out as well. And we follow an exile who's trying to restore his name. He's a samurai. It just sounds like a lot of fun. Also releasing in March, we have Daughter of Crows by Mark Lawrence. Now, this is a brand new trilogy from Mark Lawrence, following a young girl who sells herself into this Academy of Kindness, which is this very cutthroat and brutal academy, and then war comes to their door. Mark Lawrence is a legend in the space at this point. I've really enjoyed everything I've read from him so far, so I'm sure this is going to be a really good time. And who doesn't love an academy setup? It's always fun. And can we take a moment just to appreciate that cover? Also coming out in March, we have Wolfskin, the third book in the Common series, the first being Stormblood. Now, I've not read these books yet, however, I've heard some really good things about them. The main character used to be what was called a Reaper, a bio-enhanced soldier that was fighting against this invading empire, which just alone sounds really cool, and I believe this third book is the final book, so it's very exciting to see a full trilogy coming out, and it should hopefully prompt me to really hurry up and pick up Stormblood. Coming out in April, we have A Dance of Burning Blades, the second book in the Invoker trilogy, which has some of the coolest covers in modern day fantasy. I really like the white with the splash of color, but it's still very much illustration based. It's not minimalist like some other white with splash of color covers. A Song of Legends Lost got some really good reviews this year, so the fact that the sequel's coming out is very exciting. Again, I haven't had time to pick up the first book yet, but just sounds awesome. It kind of has this animal companion aspect that really excites me. It sounds like it'll be a lot of fun to read. So it's definitely one I have my eye on. Coming out in May, we have the Republic of Memory, which follows this ship, which holds most of humankind in cryostasis. However, there is a group of people that have to stay awake and look after these people who are in cryostasis, and they've been at it for hundreds of years. Generations of people have died just knowing this ship and looking after these sleeping humans, which you start to raise questions with you, like, why are we doing this and they're sleeping? I see issues with this. And when the blackouts start, they set in motion a chain of events that will change life on the Safina forever. A reckoning is coming. The premise, but also the cover, really caught my eye with this one, and a lot of really interesting themes you can lean into with that one. Coming out in May, we have Mordant's Peril by R.J. Barker. Mordants can commune with the dead, and we follow the best among them, a guy called Iride, who finds himself dragged into a conspiracy where people he knows gets murdered, and he gets framed for that murder. So it does sound like it would be a sort of murder mystery, conspiracy type novel. I'm also getting some found family vibes from the synopsis. And if you have been following the channel for any length of time, I quite like murder mysteries, conspiracy mysteries. in fantasy, so this one sounds right up my street. And RJ Barker has just continually put out well-received work, so I'm very hopeful that this will be really, really good. However, also releasing in May, we have another one of my most anticipated in the entire year, with the last contract of Isako by Fonda Lee. Fonda Lee is the author of the Greenbone saga, which I'm a huge fan of, and this is a cyberpunk corporate samurai in space. Yes, sold. I'll take all of them, please, and thank you. I'm very excited for this. Fonda Lee's fantastic. I really like what she did with the cast of characters in Greenbone, so this just sounds awesome. I am so amped for this. This is definitely one of my most anticipated reads for the entire year, and yeah, cover's really cool, but it's the premise that gets me with this one. Cyberpunk corporate samurai in space. Yes. Yes. And also in May, May's really packed with great releases. We have Platform Decay, the 8th book in the Murderbot Diaries. Now, again, this is another one. I've not mentioned it as much recently because it's been a while since I've read one, but I love the Murderbot Diaries. I am a huge fan of that series. It's fantastic. So I'm very excited for this 8th book. It does seem to be a full-length book like Network Effect rather than a novella. It's coming in at 256 pages, which is still short-ish, but it's definitely a full-length novel rather than a novella. And seen as my favorite book in the series so far was Network Effect, which is the full-length novel that we have so far in Murderbot Diaries, I am very excited for Platform Decay. I think it's going to be awesome. Pushing into June, where hopefully we're going to start getting some nicer weather, we have Songs of the Dead by Brandon Sanderson and Peter Aurelian. This is a brand new isekai type book where we follow this London rocker who is a singer as he falls into this fantasy world. Definitely getting sort of brutal legend type vibes from this. And yeah, it's Brando Sando, but also Peter has a good track record of putting work out that's well received as well. Of course, if it's Brando Sando, it's going to do well. I love urban fantasy, I love rock and metal music. Brandon Sanderson's one of my favorite authors. So even though he was kind of more of a world builder and also did some editing work on the novel, I definitely will be checking this one out in June. And also coming out in June, we have A Trade of Blood by Robert Jackson Bennett, the third book in the Anna and Din mystery series. The first two being The Tainted Cup and A Drop of Corruption. I adore these books. They're both 5-star reads for me. I think this might be my favorite read of the year it came out. And this one is up there. It's definitely my top 3 reads of the year this year. It's such a good book, and I've really, really enjoyed both of them. So this is another one I'm really, really anticipating will be a good time. Again, I love murder mysteries. First 2 books were 5 stars. I will be dropping everything when this releases. I don't think it's been officially announced, but it looks like is probably going to be in June of next year. Now we're kind of getting to the wishier, washier release dates. So some of these might not be right. Some of them might fall around that time-ish. But we have A Parade of Horribles, the 8th Dungeon Crawler Carl book. Now, I love this series so damn much. These books are some of my favorite of all time. So needless to say, very, very amped for the 8th book to release. It doesn't have a cover yet. And it does say it might be coming out in March, but I feel like that's really, really quick, especially when Matt has a book coming out in February. So does the man not sleep? Does he just... I have no idea. Dungeon Crawler Carl continues to be a great read, a great time, and I will be there no matter when the 8th book drops. It will definitely be 2026, but yeah, maybe March? That would be insane. May, sorry, not March. It's meant to come out in May, which makes way more sense. Yeah, okay, I can see it coming out in May. That's still an insane turnaround time. I feel like we just got The Inevitable Ruin. And also now we have Operation Bounce House coming out in February from Matt. And now we're going to get Dungeon Crawler Carl 8, A Parade of Horribles in May. That's wild. The output from that guy is insane. But I'm very, very excited. I think it's going to be awesome. In August, we are getting The Truth by Ryan Cahill. This is the last novella in the Bound in the Broken series, which is wild to think, and the penultimate installment likely. There will be one more book after The Truth is like the full-length novel. I'm still on Of War and Ruin. I've read the first 2 books and the first 2 novellas, so I'm still working my way through the series. I'm not completely up to date, but I have heard that The Truth has a lot of interesting reveals in it that really add into the series, which will be a lot of fun. And I know this is a huge series, especially with it being picked up by Broken Binding Publishing and being republished, the first book of Blood and Fire, in February. So yeah, it's just a great time to be a Bound and the Broken fan. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on. Also, it's pretty much confirmed that we will be getting the 7th and final book in the Red Rising saga, Red God, in 2026. Now, there's no set date for this. I do believe it will kind of be summer, late summer is kind of what I've heard. There is so much hype around this series, especially with the recent deluxe edition, but also the fact that we're getting a new edition from Curious King in March of 2026 as well. There's a lot of stuff going on with this series and so much excitement around this final book. Understandably, we're really in the era of massive space opera epics coming to a close, with Sun Eater this year, Red Rising next year. Exciting times. Now, I keep mentioning this book and all of my anticipated releases for the next year, but I'm really hoping we're going to get The Lord of Demons by Evan Winter in 2026. I really want it to come out. I'm really excited for it. I love Rage of Dragons. I loved the Fires of Vengeance. Both were terrific, and I need that third book. So there's no release date. There's not even really much of a hint that it's going to come out in 2026, but I'm hopeful. I think end of 2026, we're going to get Lord of Demons. I'm also really excited for the new J. Kristoff series that he's currently writing. I think we're getting the first book next year. I did just recently go to a book event with J. Kristoff for Empire of the Dawn, and he talked a wee bit about it, and he compared this new series to Inglourious Bastards meets Game of Thrones. So that's his words. And that just sounds awesome. It sounds really good. Apparently it all takes place mostly in this one city that's kind of stuck between these different warring nations, and he did say it's going to be quite funny as well. I love J. Kristoff's work, and I'm very, very excited to read anything new from him, so I'm hopeful that that first book is coming out in 2026. And just recently, we did find out that we are getting a new Cosmere book in 2026. Technically two. One is a picture book based on Hoyd's stories. That's more of just a coffee table type book. And we're also getting the Fires of December, which is a new secret project from Brandon Sanderson. Again, it is Hoyd telling the story about this young girl called December, and he did do a reading of it at Dragonsteel Nexus, which you can listen to on his channel. I believe this will be part of a Kickstarter towards the start of the year, and so it will probably come out in around October time, I think he said, roughly. But there will also be a full trade release towards the end of the year at Dragonsteel Nexus in December of 2026. What did I tell you? And this is only the books that have been released as of now. This doesn't include the books that will be released in 2026 that are coming later in 2026. So what an insane start to the year. Let me know down in the comments below what new releases you were excited to check out in 2026. And if any of these caught your fancy, or if I missed some, which is distinctly possible, please leave them down in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Outro.